It's silly o'clock in the morning. We've been driving for ages already. But for this episode, we're going international. We're at the start of where many a carp fishing adventure begins, the old tunnel. We're heading over to France and we're meeting up with two, that's right, not one, but two living legends of the game. A lady who is the first person ever to catch a 60-pound plus carp, and a gentleman who's caught over 18 different 50s from 18 separate countries. It's none other than Steve, Briggs and Joan. We're going fishing with them. I'm gonna get back in the van. I've got loads of driving left to do before we get there. I cannot wait to get started. And as if that wasn't enough for you guys, if you carry on watching, there's also a little prize giveaway later in this episode that you could be watching. Without further ado, I'm gonna get in the van and clock up these miles.
What's happened here, mate? Come on.
I've got this wrong, mate. I've got this horrendously wrong. We have now got, bearing in mind we've already driven for 4 and a bit hours to get down to Folkestone, we've got 694 kilometres to drive to get to Briggsy, which is going to take us 7 hours. It's 4 in the morning. We've not had any sleep. Obviously we're going to be safe. What are we doing? 2 days driving, 1 day's fishing. Get the light off, it's dangerous. 7 hours! Do you reckon we stop in Paris for a little trip at the tower?
Yeah.
What is this car doing? I reckon there's probably more content time in us driving than there is in actually fishing. We made it! We're under 7 hours, boys. See us in another hour for an update. I've got 136 kilometres before I get home. This is madness, isn't it?
Nowhere's open for coffee either.
Nowhere's open for coffee. What sort of country is this? Coffee's life, boys, especially when somebody's got the journey time completely wrong. How has it gone up in kilometres but down in time? I don't know what's going on here, mate. But one thing I do know for sure, with you in the car, Jack, this is going to feel like the blink of an eye.
The next day.
Oh, wow, that was a drive and a half. I think it's been about 16 hours since I left my house in Manchester. Jackie boy's been a stalwart, he shared some driving and we've made it to Chavagnac. I'm really excited to meet up with Steve and Joan. I haven't seen them in a fair old while. We've got the lake to ourselves, 15 acres, loads of carp. So without further ado, I'm gonna go meet them in the swim because they're already fishing. Here they are, Steve, Joan, two of the most beautiful people in angling. Mwah! Mwah for you, Steve, it's great to see you. Thank you, and thank you for basically gate crashing what is your own fishing on this beautiful lake. I'm very much looking forward to it. Talk to me about where we are.
Well, this is Chavagnac. We're down sort of just above Limoges, middle of France. And yeah, right out in the countryside, as you can hear, you know, it's so peaceful. Just bird song, a few animals, no people, no planes, no trains. It's just a lovely part of the world, and yeah, just us and the fish, which is just how we want it. It's quite well stocked. It's a good average size of fish in here. I suppose you're looking at about sort of mid-30s average. Nice. There's a lot of 30s, some lovely 50s, but there's a nice variety of carp in here.
Okay.
You know, that's what's nice. It's not like there's one stocking where they're all like peas in a pod and some bigger, some smaller.
Yeah.
You've got some yellow ones, some grey ones, some orange ones.
Nice, a few carrots mixed in, is there?
Yeah, there's a few, but there's a nice variety. Yeah.
You fished it before, I've watched your vlogs on it, mate. They are brilliant, I love your vlogs full stop, but you've definitely been on here before. Have you done a couple of trips before, or have you fished it a fair bit?
Two trips. So this is the third trip and the third year that we fished here. This is the second time this time of the year, early in the year. We didn't one in sort of June time, which was good,
Yeah.
but it's nicer at this time of the year.
It looks beautiful, and as you said
Yeah.
before, it's so quiet. I can't get over it. Coming off the road and driving down to have absolute peace is beautiful, and to share it with you guys is honestly, it's an absolute privilege to be out of here. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to let you two settle. I'm going to go get my stuff set up in that swim there, and then we're going to have a good old catch up, because it's been a long time since I've been out with you, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what lies ahead. But I am going to warn you that I am going to punish you. Talk through various chapters of your fishing history, which is incredible.
Yeah, great.
And just enjoy a lovely time with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time.
It'll be
Enjoy
great.
it.
Yes, yeah.
Right, you two, I'm going to get to
Enjoy
work.
your company too, so we're fine.
Oh, you've got that camera now, haven't I? Enjoy a little rest. I'm going to go and get, I'm going to get set up, and you can have a bit of a respite from my chewing your ears off for a bit of time. Just a bit. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, mate. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Well, had a single sort of flurry of bleeps, and then it absolutely screamed off. And we're attached to, hopefully, well, definitely my first bite, but hopefully the first one in the net for me on this trip. I've positioned the rig out there. It's about 9 foot of water, a little bit of crushed chop cell boilie, and I've actually put a pink pop-up on this one. It's the only one I've not got that is, sorry, the only one that I've got that's not fishing hard on the deck, on sort of match the hatch stuff. And I don't know whether it's that or just the spot. I'm probably thinking the spot, and Steve being very kind to me, but I've managed to pick one up.
Yes! What a scrap that was.
I'm going heavier. What do we got? £30.
27,
What you got?
2, 3, 27.
Just £10 off. Put the sling on, that's another £10. 27 free.
27.
He's a lovely fish though, isn't he? What a belter. That will do. Well, how is that for an absolute stunning example of a linear? My first bite from Chavagnac. Steve very kindly tipped me off on a little spot that he'd done really well on the damn wall. I deployed a little Ronnie rig and my favoured pink pop-up, and it's gone within a couple of hours. I'm chuffed to pieces, especially after that drive getting down here. I'm sure that there's more to come for Steve and Joan next door, and hopefully, maybe, just maybe, another 1 or 2 for me. But either way, I'm one very happy angler.
What's going on, sir?
Well, just seen that lovely linear that Hass had. Just put that back. I thought, I can hear a noise. Sure enough, it's rattled off. I mean, this one, all day yesterday, I had it in the top of the bay. I was seeing fish, and I put it right in amongst them, but it didn't happen. Just didn't go for some reason. And I brought it further back this way, in slightly deeper water, and it's where I've had fish before. And sure enough, An hour later it's gone off. Whew.
Good work.
All your years of videography, this is what you're dreaming about. Oh.
Expertly done.
Trey Bian.
Oh, lovely stuff. Well, how about that? We've literally just watched Hass put his one back, heard a noise, and sure enough, it was my alarm. And it's a lovely leathery one, £33. And well, it gave me a proper run around. Got snagged in the bush down there, had to take to the boat. But the rig actually held up really well, and this was on the old multi-rig. And you know, I've got so much faith in that now. Size 6 claw, a little wafter, little 15mm wafter on it, but the hook was in there, good and proper, and it wasn't coming off. So there we go. We'll get this one back now, and yeah, it'll be dinner time, I reckon. Happy days.
Your fishing, Steve, obviously we're at a typical sort of French venue, and I'd say probably majority of the audience will know you for this style of fishing, sort of longer sessions abroad, but from having the sort of pleasure of sharing a lot of time with you and speaking to you, you've done an awful lot of different carp fishing over the years. Talk to me a little bit about your sort of carp fishing journey up to the point where you sort of got that pedigree and credibility within and around European venues.
Well, until I went to Cassien in the middle of the 80s, I was just a carp angler in the Darrant Valley, just one of the boys on the Darrant Valley, and I never thought it's going to be any more than that, really. You know, I enjoyed that. You know, I enjoyed my fishing, and that was the fishing that I knew. Didn't know any more than that. But seeing those Cassien fish and, you know, hearing the stories, I wanted to try it. That's what I thought. I thought I'd go out there once and experience it, and you know, got the t-shirt sort of thing, hopefully catch a carp, and come back and carry on with me fishing. But you know, little did I know it changed my life. That first trip, it really did. You know, I was just blown away. It was the whole package. It wasn't just the fish, the fact that they were bigger. It was the lakes were bigger. There was more space. You know, you wasn't crowded out with anglers. The scenery was lovely, the atmosphere was great. It was.
What year was that, Steve?
First trip was 86, September 86.
Wow. And was there any sort of point that sparked that trip? Had you seen pictures? Had you seen a photo? Or had you read anything that sort of led you to Cassien?
I suppose the real deciding factor was seeing that fish of Kevin Ellis.
Yeah.
You know, I'd seen big fish. I'd seen the 50s and 60s, but that one big one, that one monster, you know, I know there was other people around me at the time that said, that's not real though, it's not like real fishing, you know. I thought, I don't care, I want some of that. I just want to have it, I want to go there.
Yeah. As well as chasing those big ones that you referenced there, that Kevin Ellis fish, but places like Cassien and various other places further afield than France in recent times as well, there was also an element of your fishing where you were involved in competitions that were like completely different to probably what most people perceive you chasing down big carp at various different parts of Europe. You also were involved in that whole competition scene at one point, weren't you, mate?
Yeah. I've done quite a few different competitions down the years, and it's. I can't say I love the competitions because I don't. You know, really, competitions are everything I go fishing to like avoid. You know, lots of people and having to go in a swim that, you know, you pick out a number and you've got teams either side of you, and you've got people coming round every time you catch one to weigh it. But there was also something very good about them, especially when you do well. I mean, they're fantastic when you do well.
You've done well in a few, mate. What have you won? You won a couple of World Cups.
Yeah, a couple of World Cup Cups. Yeah. We won Fisherville in 2000, and of course Rob and Simon, Crowley and Hughes,
Yeah.
had won in '96, which was the first one, and then they had it back at Fisherville in 2000, and you know, I won it with Tim Paisley.
Wow.
And he was a brilliant captain, or is a brilliant captain. You know, he's very good at inspiring people, getting the, you know, he got the best out of me, definitely, fishing wise. You know, he's very good at team organising and, you know, captaining the team, if you like. Yeah, we literally doubled the weight of the second place team, and yeah, won it by a mile. And it was great. It was, you know, there was so much attention from the public, you wouldn't believe it, for that competition.
Yeah.
There was something like 100,000 visitors over the 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. I remember one night having a run at like 2:30 in the morning. You know, you come out sort of bleary-eyed, and there was a family behind us, kids and everything, clapping and applauding.
That's crazy.
And wow, you know. But in the day, there was like a huge crowd around it. You know, it was a big thing for them.
I think it's a side of you that like not a lot of people will know or have really sort of heard about unless they've looked into it. But you've done an awful lot of that over sort of recent times, and I've talked about it with you when we did a Nash podcast a couple of years back maybe. We talked about this sort of development of catching 50 pounders from different countries, and I think the last time I spoke to you, you'd racked up 15 different 50 pounders from 15 different countries. And here we are now, a couple of years on, you're on 18 from 18 different countries. Where did that sort of quest, if you like, where did that stem from?
It never started out like that, because in those days we only knew really France, and then Romania come on the scene. So it wasn't a thing, if you know what I mean, catching from different countries. It just happened that we went to France, and then, Romania, we go there. And I'd caught one in France, and I think by then I'd caught one in Africa as well.
Wow.
The big thing came, it was Christoph Kuderman, a Slovenian angler. He's a good friend and he's brilliant. Because I'd got to 5 or 6, and I was very sort of pleased with myself, thinking, you know, like no one else in the world has done this. Crowley had 3 or something. I thought he was the closest. And then Carp Talk got a phone call one day off of Christoph. And first time anyone had ever heard of him. And he said, you know, I've had 50s from 9 countries. And Crowley rung me up and he said, I've seen the pictures. He said, I'm not sure about it. I don't know whether to believe it or not. Sure enough, it was true though.
Yeah.
So then the friendly rival, that's what's pushed it on so far, if you like. Probably if no one else was anywhere near, I might have stopped doing it. But because Christoph was actually ahead of me, it sort of spurred me on.
It's still like a rivalry within a sense today. Like there's sort of the two of you that keep that running tally, and a lot of your season, and we talked about off camera, sort of the trips you got planned, are periodised around adding an extra one to that list, aren't they?
Yeah, it's always in there somewhere. You know, the possibility of another country.
Yeah.
You know, if that comes out, obviously it's getting harder to pick out countries where there's a chance of going there and catching a 50. You know, it's not easy, obviously. And they're getting thin on the ground now, countries. But yeah, it's always in the back of my mind. If someone comes up with a country, I spoke with one guy at one of the shows, and he's from Kosovo. And he said, you know, we got 50s there. I was, right, keep in touch. Do you know what I mean? You know, a lot of it is making contacts through the years.
Yes.
And yeah, that's how it sort of comes about, really.
Your network of contacts must be pretty epic over the time. I mean, I've been to shows where, for instance, Waller, Den Bosch, the likes of, where you're there and you're sort of, renowned across Europe for your style of angling, the venues you visited, the different countryside of things, but also the people that you touch base with and that you have sort of contact with for big fish, for venues, for opportunities. That is a key element to it all, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've built up a lot of friends and contacts over the years. And it's not just the trips we've had, you know, I mean, that is a big part of it. You know, we go to a lot of places and we end up meeting a lot of people at those places and staying in contact, staying friendly with them.
Another element that is key is the sort of your better half, your partner in crime that's sitting next to us, lovingly doing all the washing up, bless you, Joan. we've tasked you here with some horrible stuff. We should have done that for you. But that dynamic, you and Joan and your fishing and how that works, because obviously a lot of people assume that the sort of big fish fishing, big fish hunting is quite a solo, quite a selfish sport. But obviously here you've got a very like harmonious way in which that works.
It does work so well. You know, people often say to me, you know, how'd you get Joan to go to these places? And like, it's not like that.
Leave me behind.
Yeah, I can't leave her behind. If I don't take her, that's when she gets the hump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Has that always been the case? You've always had the same sort of spirit, Joan, of wanting to go and explore and be away.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's in your roots, isn't it? The military stuff and being...
That's where it's all stemmed from, yeah.
What about the fishing side, Joan? Is that as important as the...
Well, I used to fish before.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I started fishing when I was 4 at home on the River Dure, you know, just with a pin, with a
Yeah.
good little things there. And I just, I mean, I was told never to go near the water. I haven't got to, but I had this thing about water.
The thing.
You know,
We've all got that.
Yeah, and I used to go like the river, little ponds and that there, you know, and that. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, you never saw carp or nothing. I mean, we lived out in the sticks anyway, you know, but that's how it was. Sort of kept it up there and kept doing the fishing there, and it's just gone from there, and that's where I met him.
No.
Yeah, at Farlow's.
We had
Is it
separated.
at Farlow's?
Yeah.
At Farlow's, yeah. There was a group, we're all together.
Yeah.
And you showed me this photograph, didn't you?
That was it. Yeah, the one. It was the £60, wasn't it? The first
What you
£60
had
pounder.
there, you know. And I could see the water, the colour. Oh, that's lovely.
Not the fish, the water behind, yeah?
Yeah.
Not
yeah,
me.
Yeah, the fish and him. And we had, his hair was down here.
Yeah.
Lovely, Kurt, lovely. And I thought, oh, that looks beautiful. I thought, God, I'd love to go there, you know. And I mean, and then I said to him, I said, will you take me then? He said, yeah, I will do. And that was it, didn't you? You said yeah.
I think you might be the first ever carp angler that has used a carp fishing catch picture to pull a lady. And now look at you. It's absolutely beautiful, mate.
I just remember saying, look, you know, there's no night fishing at Cassien. You know, you're not meant to be there. You can't put like a bivvy up and be all comfortable.
No
it's
beds,
like,
no nothing.
and I thought, you know, I can't expect Joan to just like hide away. You know, she said, no, I'll be all right with that. You know, I thought we'd try it, and yeah, she was like a duck to water.
Well, honestly, we've got some stories. We're going to talk Cassien later, and there's some incredible feats of sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, endurance, pain tolerance that you've been through on there that we are going to cover, which are incredible. But as a pair, I said it before, I said it earlier in the interview, you are genuinely the nicest people, and I think you complement each other so well. You are genuinely a credit to the sport, and I said it to you before we started this. It is surreal and a massive privilege to be sat here in France with you two, fishing and sharing time that I will never forget. So I can't thank you enough. I'm not going to punish or chew your ears off anymore for tonight. We're going to relax, enjoy the ambience. Hopefully an alarm rips off. We've already had a couple, so that's good. And then I'm going to probably give you the night's rest and then punish you tomorrow. But thank you so much. I cannot express how much it means to me.
With him and I, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, tough.
Well, I love it. So let's
good.
crack the wine open and have a great time.
Yeah, let's get the party started.
Nice one. Steve, what a beautiful evening, mate. It is, I would say, serene, mate, isn't it? It's so still and peaceful.
It's lovely. You know, it's when you're sitting at home on those long, cold winter nights and you dream about those nights when you can sit out, chat about nice things, you're not cold, and this is it.
Mate, it's been
This
beautiful.
is it.
I feel like I've got a whisper almost because it is that tranquil here. But with tranquility, we're going to talk romantically about some of your captures, and I've asked you a pretty impossible task, which is to select 3 that you're going to address and talk about that have some significance to you. But I know full well, and the viewers will know, you've caught hundreds, if not thousands, of incredible carp, mate, over the course of your time angling, and you're still out there doing it now. I've often asked the question to many people, the best carp or the carp you wish you caught in history, and the most common answer is the first carp that I know you've caught, which is an incredibly significant, incredibly special carp, which is the Black Mirror, mate. Give us the Black Mirror capture story, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's impossible to talk about important captures without talking about the Black Mirror, you know, because that's just easily on top, you know, it's head and shoulders above everything else, so it's got to be in there.
Even for you?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the one.
Yeah, head and shoulders above everything else. Just because of what went into it, you know, I always say it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, physically and mentally, catching that fish, you know, the work and effort, commitment and everything that went into that capture was like nothing I've ever done before, you know, not just fishing, outside of fishing, you know, in my life.
In what sense you talk about that? Try and conceptualise what you mean by that, the effort, the sort of toil. It's not the place itself is it's inaccessible. You've got to be sort of light. You've got to be on your toes and all that. Were you talking in that regard, or just the actual prospect of completing the mission?
You know, it was a nature reserve and you're not meant to be there, so it's a different style of fishing to what I'm used to. You couldn't just go there and fish like you normally would, like we are here, you know, set a bivvy up and fish. A lot of it was you had to fish undercover and away from, you know, prying eyes that were there looking out for people. You had to do all that. But at the same time, it was a rock hard lake without all of that. You know, there was 17 carp. It was considered by most there was 17 carp in there in about 35, 40 acres of deep, very weedy lake. And just finding them was hard, you know, let alone catching them. Finding them was hard. And then when you found them, you had to fish for them in a way that you wasn't going to be seen. It was like a jungle. It was totally overgrown with brambles and stingers. And if they weren't there the next morning or whatever, you saw a show up the other end, you had to get up there with all your gear, and it was a trek. You know, it really was like going through a jungle. So it was, extremely, really, it's just the hardest thing I've ever done. Wow. It was so hard, it really was. There was also the monotonous side to it, because there was a lot of days and weeks that would pass by where nothing would happen. Yeah. Nothing would happen. There would be little windows of opportunity. And the thing was, you know, I'd bait up spots and constantly monitor the spots, you know, and sometimes they'd go 2 weeks without being touched. But you would have to keep going and going and going, because if you didn't, you might miss that window of opportunity, which I did several times. It eventually got to a point where I was seeing the Black Mirror more and more, almost at ease in the end, where it seemed almost impossible to start with. I was now finding the areas where it was, and particularly in one small bay in the corner, which really no one else was sort of taking much notice of. They might have seen the fish there, but they sort of ignored it to a certain extent. And I'd concentrated on that. I was always baiting that spot, and I'd caught 2 commons from that spot, and they were both commons that I'd seen with the Black Mirror. Right. You know, the first time there was 5 fish there, and I caught one of the commons. The second time there was 3 fish there, including the Black Mirror both times. I caught one of the commons again, you know.
You're closing
I was
in,
getting
aren't you?
very close, yeah. The particular day of the capture, it was June the 18th, and on June the 16th, I just remember that date, obviously, because it's the start of the old fishing season. And I'd baited up before I left, baited up the spot as usual, got back on June the 18th. First thing I do, check the spot. Yeah. There was a common there, you know, feeding on the baits. And I knew which fish it was. It was one they called the Twisty Common, an old original, one I'd love to have caught. So just get a rod set up, get a bait on that spot. So that was the first thing I did. I'd been there like 2 minutes. Gear in the bushes, get a rod out, looked over, and the common had sort of just wandered off. So the spot was clear and I could see it, see some of my baits still there. just lowered the hook bait as it was only in the edge,
Yeah, right on the
literally.
edge.
Lowered it down, just sort of straightened the hook length, pushed the bank stick in. I stepped back and I thought, blimey, right, I better I'll text Joan, say I've got here, and say I've seen one already, because, you know, England, I should say, it was the World Cup was on, and England were playing football that day.
Right.
And so the streets were empty.
Yeah.
You know, normally it was a job getting in there, you had to be undercover, but strolled straight in there that day because everyone was at home watching football. So, but anyway, I thought, right, I'll text Joan that I'd seen one, got my phone out, and it just blitzed off, literally, within a minute.
In that time?
Yeah, literally within a minute. And it was one of those spots, the tree was over in the water, so I knew the routine. I'd caught the 2 commons there before. So
Had you had the bite from that spot as well?
that
Yeah.
spot, that exact same spot, yeah. So I knew the routine. I had to jump in the lake up to here and walk along a bit with the rod to get clear of everything. So I did that, you know, phone in the bushes somewhere, trousers off in the lake, and so I'm up to like my chest in water, just presuming that I'm playing the common. You know, that's what I'd just seen in there feeding. I hadn't seen anything else. And it's sort of steaming off through one weed bed, through another weed bed, through a third weed bed, and all the way back. The fight went on for quite a while, you know, to-ing and fro-ing, but it was all okay. It was all going to plan. You know, I was probably giving it more stick than what I should have, but I had to get it through the weed, for one thing. You know, if they got buried there was a lot of weed there. Because of that, I couldn't actually sort of see into the water.
Yeah.
You know, the water was clear, but because of that angle, it was like the reflection, I couldn't actually see what was happening. Got the net, and it was only when the fish broke the surface for the first time, I thought, oh, it's a mirror. And then it dawned on me, I thought, hold on a minute, there's only 2 mirrors here. You know, there's a 30-pound mirror and the big one, and blimey, it looked big. You know? Can't be. You know, it's gone from being a mid-20 common, and all of a sudden it's a mirror, which didn't sort of register. But anyway, you know, it came up, went over the drawstring, and as it came over, I just saw the wrist of the tail come up, and that flat lobe, that familiar flat lobe. And I still didn't believe it. I literally threw the rod away, looked in the net. Oh my God, you know, it's one of those moments. It's hard to explain, you know, it's like meltdown, it really was, yeah.
You're very calm in nature, mate, all the time. There, when that's happened, and the realisation that the fish that you have got in your net is that fish, with that significance across the whole world, not only personally to you, but across the whole of the carp world. Did you remain calm? Did you or did you just let out a scream or cry? I don't know, there's all sorts of emotion.
I mean, there was just me there. I just went into, I can't remember what happened, but yeah, I was definitely a bit of air punching and screaming and shouting because I'd put so much into that, you know, like I was literally tunnel vision for quite a while, and I knew I was getting closer, but it also felt at the same time that I was never going to catch it. You know,
Did it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I was never at the mindset that, like, this fish is mine. You know, it just felt like this is never going to happen.
You ever had that since, or not really?
Yeah, I suppose so. It was just, I saw the black mirror as like this mythical beast, if you like, and it was hard to imagine me actually holding it, you know. But there it was. It was, you know, it was almost like an out-of-body experience. Thinking, blimey, I'm looking in the net, and there it is. I've got it. And wow, you know. And then I did sort of calm down a bit and found my phone wherever it was in the bushes. And yeah, first thing I did was call Joan, and she sort of said, "Oh no, what's happened? You know, have you been caught or something going in?" I said, "No, I've caught it." She said, "What?" I said, "I've caught it. You know, I'd only been there 15 minutes, and I've got it in the net."
Unbelievable, mate. What did it go? How big was it?
51.12.
Wow.
It was, yeah, 51.12. That was my first English 50, you know, English PB. There's that group of fish that people always talk about. You know, if you could catch one carp, would it be Mary? Would it be Basil?
Yeah.
Would it be the Bishop from, you know, would it be the Black Mirror?
Black Mirror.
It was one of that
Yeah, the elite.
A-team elite fish of history, of carp fishing history.
To do that, I mean, it's surreal just hearing about it, but to achieve that, I can't imagine that computing for a very long time, but it's one epic photo and one epic capture, mate.
It was epic, yeah, absolutely epic.
Mate, his hair's on the back of your neck. The next capture, mate, a different capture, but again, another awesome looking fish, mate.
Yeah, the big Austrian scaly mirror, absolutely incredible carp. It was a lake that had it had a history, but a very undercover history.
Okay.
We knew it was there because there was a syndicate on there for many years, and the guys would let the odd pictures out. We'd see pictures of these big fish, big scaly fish, and they were gorgeous. They were all unusually exceptional fish.
Yeah.
But they made it quite clear that they weren't going to tell us where it was.
Yeah, protect it.
And
yeah.
we weren't going to be able to fish there. You know, even though they're nice people, but just very protective about their fishing, and who could blame them? One day, I had an email off a guy, and he said, you know, I've bought a lake in Austria with some very, very nice fish. I'd like to invite you over. I said, yeah, you know, why not? Yeah, all right.
That'll do me.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't actually know too much about what was in there. I knew he had some good fish, but it just sounded nice, and I thought, well, Southern Austria, I'll have some of that, definitely, and sort of organised it. And he, even though he had just bought this lake, he was also very secretive. And he said, I don't want you driving out here because I don't actually want anyone to really know the exact location of the lake. So he said, if you fly out here, I'll pick you up at the airport and I'll take you to the lake. Me and flying don't get on.
You don't like it, do you?
I always lose my gear most
Yeah,
of the time.
you-
You know, I know the speed and ease at which you can get there by plane, but as usual, you know, I've turned up in Graz airport, I think it was, in Southern Austria,
Okay.
over the tannoy. Mr. Briggs, can you come to the information desk, please? Oh, here we go. I knew what it was going to be straight away. Got there, and yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Briggs, all of your luggage is still in London. Just give us your address, and you know, we'll send it on to you, all your luggage onto you. And I said, well,
no.
I haven't got an address.
Yeah.
All the gear, what you've lost, is my fishing gear, and I'm going fishing on a lake. Oh, well, that's going to be a problem then, isn't it? And as luck would have it, Chris, the owner of the lake, he had heard my name being called out over the tannoy, so he made his way through
Oh, touch.
and come up to the information desk and said, look, I'll give you the address of the lake and whatever. And he said, don't worry, Steve, you can use all my gear.
Yeah, until.
Yeah, so I could use all his rods, his bivvy, even sleeping bag and everything,
Bless.
you know, which was really nice, yeah. And then he drove me down to the lake, and you know, we got there, and it didn't look particularly anything special. It was a gravel pit, nice gravel pit, very sort of English looking, really, probably 15, 20 acres, something
Okay.
like that. The way the syndicates work in Austria is that you have your own swim,
Right, yes.
and that's
I've
your
heard this.
swim for
Yeah,
the year.
yeah.
You can't fish any other swims, just that one, which is a bit weird, but
That's how they do it,
that's
isn't
how
it?
they do it.
Yeah.
And he's got his own swim, the owner. So he said, you know, you can use my swim. It started to dawn on me when he's talking about it, and he's saying, oh, I took over from a syndicate and they were very unhappy, and I said they could all stay, but they've all dropped out, most of them. It started to dawn on me, this was the syndicate lake that we couldn't have access to. And, you know, and I thought, wow, I've ended up fishing it.
Fate.
One way, yeah, it's strange, you know, after all this time, by chance, I've ended up on this lake where I'd love to have had a go on, and there I was.
Did you have any idea of stock at this point at all? No.
Yeah, I was starting to get an idea. There wasn't loads of fish in there.
Yeah.
There was enough, you know, it wasn't a really lightly stocked lake. I don't know, there was probably 100 carp in there or something like
Okay.
that, so it was quite a few. But there were some really big ones. They were the biggest, went about 35 kilos, which is just under 80
Yeah, I
pounds, I
was gonna say,
suppose.
it's-
You know, there was
it's a
some
big
good
old
fish
carp.
in there, yeah, good ones. It was the fourth morning when there was like a set of steps going down to a platform, and that's where my rods were. My bivvy was up the top.
Yeah.
And it was the last week of October, and it was getting cold.
Hmm.
So when the sun came up in the morning, it hit the platform, but not the bivvy.
Yeah.
So I got my chair and went and sat down on the platform. I'm sitting there in the sun. It was about 9:30, and my sounder box was up in the bivvy, so I couldn't hear it. You know, I was just sitting there taking in the rays, and all of a sudden I heard tick, 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 tick. I looked round, and one of my lines was tight, and the spool was just starting to tick. Jeez, I've got to run. You know, blimey.
Yeah.
Picked up the rod, and straight away there was still a fair bit of weed in there, and I could feel it sort of grating and grating. It was gradually getting tighter. So I jumped in the boat, you know, jumped in the boat straight away. There's a boat there. Started following it. Went out to the weed bed first. Sort of ping, ping, ping off the weed, and then all of a sudden I felt the fish. And it's hard to tell, you know, when you're in a boat, sort of following a fish. You can feel that it's not a little one. The little one's sort of got a lot more energy,
Yep.
But at the same time, you can't always tell. You know, you haven't got a solid standpoint.
Yeah,
if you know what I
exactly.
mean.
Yeah.
It was pulling me around for ages. It really was, and it's not a particularly deep lake, probably 10 to 15 foot,
Right.
but it was probably 15, 20 minutes before I even saw the fish. You know, it was going
Deep and slow, yeah,
slow,
yeah.
and I thought, well, you know, it was just lovely in the sunshine, playing this fish. I thought, well, I've got all day, you know, I was just really enjoying it. And eventually it sort of tired, and I mean, it was a great battle, it really was. But as it, you know, it came up over the net, and, you know, I really got to see these big scales. I mean, great big scales all down its back. I mean, it was an incredible looking fish. So we got it out, and, you know, we had a tripod to weigh it on and everything, and it was 71.10.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it just got bigger all the time. Should have left it another 20
I was going to
minutes.
say, next one I catch, mate, staying there a while. That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the big ones, obviously, one of the big ones. Absolutely incredible fish. It really was.
Oh, mate, 70 from Austria that looks like that is, well, that's a stunner, mate. Everyone would take that all day long.
Just have a look at that side as well. What an amazing fish. I know there were some beauties in this lake, but that's incredible. November the 1st. Amazing. I'm going to have to put him down as he's so heavy, but I'm so happy with that. Amazing. Well, that is one incredible fish. What an amazing place, what an amazing fish. God. 70 pound of Austrian mirror. Wow.
The last one, mate, and this one shows, I don't think you get enough credit for it, if I'm honest, mate, with regards to people and the diversity, I can't even speak now, the diversity of your angling in terms of, we've referenced it before in previous chats, the different type of angling you've done. You've talked in this chapter about the Black Mirror through to Austrian angling, and this last capture is from running water, it's from a river. And that's another dimension of angling again. Like, not everybody can turn their hand to sort of changing styles of angling and still producing results like you have.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I suppose in a way, yeah, I'm one of the few people that do it all. You know, I do the commercial waters, whatever, I do the big public waters. And one of the few things that I hadn't really done was the big rivers. You know, I always felt that was missing from my CV, and it was something I wanted to put right. And I have done in recent years. You know, I fish rivers more and more, and you know, the Ebro in Spain is one of the original big famous European rivers, isn't it? And yeah, I had my first trip there a few years, probably 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
With Crowe, Bev Clifford, Rob Hughes.
Okay.
In February, and it was a good week. I had quite a few, and I had a 48 myself that week.
Nice.
Next week we go down to what they call the mines, which is downstream of Mequinenza, and it widens right out. You know, it's like a totally different river to the bits we had fished up until then. It's probably 600 metres wide, much deeper, down to sort of 10 metres deep. And it's right up my street. As soon as I looked at it, I loved it. You know, big expanse of water.
Yeah.
You got big cliffs behind you with vultures, condors sitting on there, and yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It really was. And it's just known as a better area for bigger fish.
Is it?
And yeah, I remember Joan saying, yeah, we'll get down there, we'll get you 50 from there.
Oh, is this another one of your 50 to tick off the list country-wise?
Well, Spain, yeah, I'd never had a Spanish 50. And I thought, well, that's not going to happen. You know, we've had a 48, Joan's had a 44, you know, it's only, you know, push your luck so far sort of thing. But yeah, straight away, I think the first night I had a 38 and a 34, you know, good stamp of fish.
Yeah.
And we were fishing fairly long range. You wanted to be in about 8 metres depth. You know, that it was fairly deep anyway, but it went out sort of 3, 4, you know, gradual drop off. But it was about 8 metres where you wanted to be. And these fish absolutely love Scopex squid. You know, I mean, it's a great bait for me anyway, but there, for some reason, it just, everyone in the end was nicking baits off me because it was just working so well. So I was very confident. But the second night we were there, I think 2 rods had gone off already, and then the third one went off. And this was one of those, you know, you just feel that power. And it kited up. It ended up going through Louisella's lines further up. So they come out, they had their alarms on. They were in a camper van.
Okay.
So, you know, so they've come out the camper van, and that's a good one. That is a good one. And yeah, I mean, sure enough, we got it in, and it was, you know, I don't put a big emphasis on weights, but it was over 50 pounds.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was the important thing. Once I saw the needle go past 50 pounds,
you're happy.
so I can't remember the ounces, but I just saw that needle, and they went 50 pounds. I said, yeah.
That is a big carp from the Ebro, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never had a River 40 before that trip.
Okay.
You know, it was one of the things, like I said, was missing off my CV, and one of the things I wanted to put right. That, you know, I'd fished a few rivers here and there, you know, and obviously like the St Lawrence sort of thing in America and Canada. And, you know, you catch loads, but you try getting one over 40, it's not easy. And so I'd never done it. But yeah, very special, good friends, you know.
£50 was the dream.
Good times.
And, yeah, the dream's come true. Because this one went past £50, £50 an ounces. I weren't bothered about the ounces because as soon as that needle went past £50, that was job done. There we go. Oh, yeah, thanks so much to everyone. To Louisella and Morrow, and yeah, all the guys for helping us get to this point. God, what a lovely fish. Absolutely thrilled with that. A new river PB and Spanish PB and country number 16. 50s from 16 countries. This is the Spanish one. Fantastic. Mwah. Happy days. Yeah.
They're 3 incredible captures, mate. Like historic, iconic. You've got a lot of a sort of a modern day sort of big fish, unknown as well. That Austrian side, as you say, is quite well protected. A lot of venues there, and then you've got the Ebro. And for the Ebro, having fished it myself, I know that is not only a landmark fish, but it's a very small percentage of what could be caught there in terms of the grand scheme of things, mate. So that is an incredible bunch of stories, and mate, so well told, as you always do, and I can't thank you enough for sharing it, mate. It's genuinely, like, the whole trip for me, as I've said before, it's been brilliant just to share the bank with you, hear the stories on and off camera from you and Joan, and just good company, good times, great fishing, and mate, it's a pleasure, mate. We need to get a brew, carry on talking, cut these cameras, and enjoy the evening, mate.
Yeah, well, it's just wonderful, isn't it? Isn't this what life's all about?
I could do this for a very long time, Steve, mate. Forget the drive home, I'm staying,
Yeah, just
mate.
stay. Just stay.
Yeah, I wish I could, mate.
That's good.
Oh, it's a lovely time to get a bite.
Yeah, it's Steve.
It's not massive, but no, bit of that.
That's a good job, isn't it, Steve?
Lovely, lovely job.
I'm better netting with my eyes closed.
Well, welcome to a lovely morning in France. It's absolutely beautiful here, it really is. And what makes it even better is what I've got here, because I've got a lovely 42-pound mirror. I mean, I had a fish early yesterday evening, and then after that it was fairly quiet through the night, but we had the normal sort of burst of action this morning. 3 lovely fish. This was the pick of the bunch, 42 and a quarter. Absolutely lovely, isn't it? What a proper chunk of a French carp. Well pleased with that. And I think there'll be more to come. There we go. It's all good. It's all working. Everything we're putting out there. The little wafters. This one was on a wafter, but had fish on the snowman, on the slip D as well. Everything's working fine. Lovely stuff. Yeah, well, I've got a few minutes, just going to talk about rigs I'm using basically. And for this trip I've actually gone 2 different ways. Normally I'd just go with a slip D rig on all rods, but I wanted to use sort of pop-ups and wafters, you know, just see the variations, see which comes out on top. And for the snowman I'm still sticking with the slip D, you know, that's what I've used for a long time now. But I have started sort of dabbling with the multi-rig a bit more. It's a rig that I've used quite a bit in the past, but sort of left it alone for quite a while. You know, when I've been using pop-ups in particular, I've gone for the hinge rig. But I just got sort of fed up really with retying it every time a hook point goes or something like that. It sort of means retying the whole rig. Obviously, the multi-rig, you know, it's a much simpler rig. You just got to literally unloop the hook and put a new one on. So yeah, and I mean there's another reason for that, as since I've been using the multi-rig the last, well, probably, what would it be, 5 or 6 weeks I've gone back to it, you know, at home and over here. I've not actually lost anything on it. You know, it's been a really sort of a productive rig and successful rig, I suppose you could say. You know, I've landed everything I've hooked on it. So yeah, so it's the multi-rig for the pop-ups and the wafters, and I'm still sticking with the slip D for the snowman rigs. And it's quite interesting actually. I've got 4 rods out and I've had 4 fish now, and it's been 2 each. It's been 2 on the multi-rigs and 2 on the slip D. So not much to choose between them. Both good rigs, both rigs that I put a lot of faith in. And at the end of the day, you know, as long as they work, you feel confident in them. That's what it's all about. For me, it's, you know, it's confidence, and if they do the job, and they're both doing the job, so happy days.
Well, he's in again. I think this is number 5 for the day, and he is, well, he's Hollywood anyway, but he's proper Hollywood here. He's absolutely smashing it. I'm catching tench. He's a nice fish though, isn't he?
He's mega, you've got to hold him up for the camera.
Oh, I'll hold him up for the cameras. I'm going full Drennan Cup. Oh, slimy tench. Nice guy.
Drennan Cup, mate. There it was.
I don't think I could have won the Drennan Cup there, but I've actually, yeah, I've had a mare. But you have got video evidence of it anyway. I'll put the claim in.
Don't think I pressed record, but we'll see.
He's catching the carp. We've had a curry. We're in France. The sun's out. What more do you want from a film? Middle rod. That is what I'm going to do next. I'm keeping that. No one's doing this. Middle rod. The finger is what did me. We're talking about cricket, and it was very. What was that? Was the umpire Willie? What's his Dickie? No, the other umpire, the old Aussie one, who was a bit strange. Red finger. Yeah. This was a straight finger. Middle rod.
You're going to have to give some context on what that means.
What? The context of what that means is we were sitting there, we finished our curry, we were talking about sport, cricket, tennis, football, and Steve, as I'm facing him and he's looking at the lake, has gone, middle rod. And as we turn round, the little tip's just gone, woo, and the alarm's pulled tight. That's the context of the nonsense that I just waffled at you. Mate, it's better than a tench. That's a good one, Steve. Oh. Rolling in. He doesn't even fit in the net, Steve. He's a big one. That's a good one. Lovely. Oh, he's a right chunky one. He's Le Grand Fromage, mate.
Oh, chunks.
He's like a block of brie.
Well, they are getting bigger. Yeah, biggest one of the trip so far. Just over 46 pound. A lovely big chunk of a mirror. Absolute beaut. Ain't doing my arms no good. They're getting heavier and heavier. But yeah, it's been a good day today. 5 fish today. Second 40 today actually. And yeah, as previous trips here have showed, they do tend to get bigger as the week goes on. And well, still early days yet. It's only Tuesday. But yeah, they are getting bigger. That's a beauty, isn't it? Very happy with that. Right. Ooh. Mwah. Yeah, I've sort of gone against the grain a little bit bait-wise this time. I mean, most of my trips I do sort of concentrate with scopex squid. That's always been my favourite. It's the one I sort of rely on for most of my trips, but I've got that this week. But I've also brought along monster shrimp and citrus, and I've been using all three actually. I started off doing them separately on different rods, you know, citrus on one, monster shrimp on one, scopex squid, and I've sort of come to end up with using them all combined. So I've got a little handful of shrimp, squid and citrus, and combining the three, and I know they're all quality baits, so that's not a problem. And it also, I'm not going to say confuses the fish, because that's the wrong way of looking at it, but there's not one bait that they can get used to sort of seeing out there and knowing it's got a trap in there somewhere. You know, there's all different baits, different flavours, different attractors, And yeah, the odd little bits of glug in there. I've got the Scopic squid glug and I've got the citrus glug. So yeah, odd little bits. Sometimes Scopex and not the citrus, sometimes the other way round. So yeah, I'm mixing and matching is basically what I'm trying to say, rather than keeping a constant throughout. And it's been working, you know, the action's actually been picking up throughout. So I guess at the end of the day, as long as it's quality bait, they're going to eat it, and that's exactly what's been happening. Hook baits, I've used the 2 different systems this week. I've used wafters on a couple of rods, and I'm using snowmans on a couple of rods. Scopic squid wafters mainly, and then the snowmans I've swapped between squid and citrus and monster shrimp and citrus. You know, I've been really sort of messing around and mixing it up, and yeah, it's funny when you see the results sometimes, because you don't know what's going to happen. Most people, and most times myself really, you go abroad with one bait in mind, be it Scopic squid, be it citrus, whatever. And it's nice to try different things, and this time, you know, which is a little bit unusual for me, I've used a mixture of all 3 all together, and yeah, I mean, it's working. That's the thing, at the end of the day, it's working. So yeah, I guess as long as it's good food, they like it, they're going to eat it, and yeah, they have been. I'm mainly using whole baits, and not big amounts. You know, it started off a little bit slow this session, and with that in mind, I sort of toned down the baiting a bit. Every trip, every session is different. You know, there's people that say to me, oh, you know, what should I do for this lake? And you've got to gauge it how it is at the time. You know, this time they seemed a little bit cagey, so I'm only using little handfuls of each, probably 30-40 boilies, a couple of handfuls of the house pellet, which I've got this week. And yeah, I'm using little pockets of bait rather than big beds. And again, you know, I wouldn't feel too unhappy about putting a big bed of bait out, but at the same time, there's a chance it could kill it stone dead as well. So, you know, the little groupings, the little beds of bait have been working, and in actual fact, the action's picking up every day. So yeah, that to me is proof that I'm doing it right, and I'm going to stick with doing it that way.
What I wanted to talk to you two about is Cassien. You are very much linked to that place through the archives of history. But one thing that, in everything that I've done and everybody that I've talked to about Cassien as a place, before we delve into the historical chapters, incredible captures, for you, can you sort of answer the question as to why that place has this sort of magic across everybody who's ventured there? Everybody wants to go back. It has that sort of relevance and resonance with so many anglers.
Well, for me, like my first time, the very first time I went there, was sort of driving on the motorway. Then you come off where it says like Cassien, right there, and you come off onto the little side roads, and you're wending your way around through all the trees. Then you come across this little bridge, and then you look there, and there's this turquoise water, and you think, wow, it was massive. And as you're driving along there, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, and then you get to the end and you come around the bend at the bottom, and it still goes on. Then you look under the bridge, and it's miles of turquoise water. It was beautiful.
Sort of the full package, you know, and you have to be there to get it, really. You know, it's hard to explain to someone what it is, but when people have said to me, and I've said to them, when you go, you'll get it, you'll understand it. And they've come back and said, yeah, I know what you mean. Because it's like the atmosphere, the scenery, you know, it's just where it is in the world. You know, there's a reason that they call it the millionaire's playground, that part of the world, because that's where, if you've got all the money in the world, that's where you go, you know, to the south of France. Because just such a lovely part of the world, it really is.
It's interesting, like, as I said, I've never visited it, but I've heard stories, accounts, read books, articles, seen videos, everything about the place. And you said there, Steve, when you're there, you get it. And I think when you look at it on paper, in terms of the fishing now, it's very different to the fishing when you guys have sampled it, in terms of maybe sort of the actual makeup of the fishing, it's quite difficult as a venue to maybe go to and to fish it as it is now days only. But like you say, the atmosphere, maybe all that conceptualised in it is why it's such a hook for so many people, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot over the years. It was nice. I know everyone will say that about places. It was nicer in the early days because even like the restaurants, now they're sort of tourist based.
Okay.
Whereas in the early days, like Chez Pierre's is now a tourist restaurant. In the early days, it was a fisherman's restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, there's pictures of fish all around the walls, a little tackle shop in there. And yeah, it was a fishing lake.
Your early fishing on there, Steve, so those first trips before Joan came sort of later and you guys sort of double teamed on there, if you like, talk to me about sort of the fishing, even the fact that you were on there from sort of UK base and you come into a venue that's so completely different to probably anything you fish back home.
Yeah, it's incredible really when I think back to it. You know, I had 2 trips in those years before I went with Joan, and I went obviously with, you know, I didn't have much gear then anyway, didn't have much money, didn't have much tackle, so I went with what I had, which was 11 foot 1 3/4 pound test curve rods, you know, Mitchell 300 reels, Cardinal 55s, you know, some of each. I went on there the first day and cast out a marker float because that's how I found out the depths, and I just got fed up with waiting for it to land. You know, it just, I know now that it was 100 foot deep out there. Yeah, you know. So you know, I was wasting my time, and I just worked on the basics. Like you look around here and you think, well, if it's like a steep bank, chances are it carries on like that under the water. Whereas if it's like shelves off more sort of shallow, chances are the water's going to be more shallow. So I just went by that really, chose a place where I thought it was going to be shallow and went from there.
Did you catch that first trip?
Yeah, my first run actually come within about half hour of getting the rods out. But I picked up the rod and struck into nothing. I still, you know, it's a screaming run.
Right.
It freaked the life out of me because I didn't expect it. I hadn't seen any fish.
Yeah.
So, you know, got the rods back out. And then I did, that first night I caught a 22 pound mirror.
Wow.
And that's really what I'd gone there to do, try and catch one carp.
Yeah.
And then take it from there. So I did that the first night.
The sort of lure of the place, you said there you'd done your first trip, then you went back for a subsequent trip. Was there much upscaling in terms of your tackle? Was there much boat work in that second trip, or was it still...
Yeah, we had big plans. I mean, there was a guy I was fishing with back home in England then, Pete Noonan.
Right.
And we was fishing on Darenth. And when I got back home, I went straight down to Darenth to see him, and I said to him, you know, I said, this place is unbelievable. We've got to have a trip there the following May. And he said, well, yeah, you know, he was up for it. So we went out there. I said, we need big, hard hook baits, you know, big boilies. Peanuts we can use as free offerings, but we want big boilies. So we'd never done anything like this before, but we got the mixes that were available then. I think it was Richworth 50-50 and Rod Hutchinson protein mix. We did a bit of mixing. Made some really big hook baits, like 30 mil.
Right, gobstop.
Air dried them,
Yeah.
you know, and boat work, I said, you know, really you need, we'd never used boats before, but I said it's better if you row the baits out and you can bait up and everything. So we did that. Took us a few days. We was in an area where I'd seen fish caught the previous trip, but they weren't there, which is typical of Cassien. You go back the year after and the fish aren't there.
Really, they don't follow similar patterns?
Not at all.
No?
No, 9 times out of 10 you go back to where you caught them the year before and you catch nothing there.
Wow.
That's Cassien. You've got to find them. But we found them in the spawning bay.
Right.
And as luck would have it, they had opened up the spawning bay. Normally it was closed. And for some reason it was open that year. And there was no one there. So we just went in and set up. And that night I had a 28 mirror. The following night we was fishing right across, only shallow bay. It was only 3 foot deep where we was dropping the baits.
Yeah.
But right across this bay with reed lined and everything. That night I had a 61 mirror.
Oh my
Pete had one as well, but yeah.
A 61 pound mirror in what year are we talking here?
87.
I mean, that's colossal, mate, that is.
I mean, it didn't fight particularly hard in the shallow water,
Yeah.
I must say that, but we knew it was big when it sort of whooshed on the surface. It was at night, and I remember Pete saying, God, that sounded big. It was only, you know, that old saying, "Oh, I thought the net was snagged on the bottom," and I couldn't believe the weight. You know, I'd never seen anything like it. You know, when we laid it out on the ground, it was just like so big. Normally it's just a fish there, but this was like enormous. It was incredible.
Did you have any idea of like potential at back then of what it could produce, or what even was in there?
Well,
really?
it was like the big explosion of possibilities abroad. You know, we'd never considered fishing abroad before.
Yeah.
And of course, Kevin Maddox had been there. Kevin Ellis had been there and then caught that 76-pound mirror.
Yeah, okay, so Kev had caught the mirror by then.
He had caught that fish.
Okay.
And of course, everyone thought, well, if that's in there, there's going to be much bigger. And there was a lot of talk about 100-pounders in there. You know, little did we know, even in a vast lake like that, that was the biggest in there. You know, we didn't think that was possible.
No.
You know, with the size of it, you just think, well, there's got to be bigger ones out there. But, you know, as we know now, there wasn't. That was the biggest one.
Wow. 18 consecutive sort of years you fished that lake. Now, over that time, I know, and I've seen the video and the footage and the imagery, you spent an awful lot of sort of Christmases there, didn't you?
Yes, well, we had, as I say, 18 Christmases, because plus the summer months went as well. The 18 Christmases were a separate thing, and we'd go down 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, it was nice. Sometimes the weather was good, sometimes it wasn't. But Steve used to go and have a look for a little Christmas tree up in the Bondo there, and he'd dig it up, bring it down, and would put it in the swim. Now, we had also taken our Christmas cards and Christmas presents and whatever. Oh. We decorated all that, and that was fine, and that was for Christmas. Come Christmas Day, right, I mean, we just had like just a little cooker thing there. We'd have Christmas dinner. Also, we had a little bit of stuffing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, lovely Christmas dinners.
And that was it for Christmas Day. We opened our presents, read the cards, it was nice.
The 18 Christmases come about because they actually legalised night fishing in 94.
Yeah.
You know, we used to night fish and get away with it, you know, because we used to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was sort of, it was tolerated because you weren't bivvying up. Obviously, you couldn't do that in the winter. But in 94, they legalised the night fishing, so you could bivvy up and everything. Right. So that was from 94. And then in 2013, you know, they stopped the night fishing again. So we did all the years we could do. You know, that was the trip that we really look forward to every year out of all of them.
Why? Obviously, you said there, Joan, that there was trips in the summer as well. Why that winter? Was it a good time of year in terms of on there? Was it just because it fell well for you? Why?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Well, it was both. It fell well because both of our birthdays are in December.
Yeah.
But December was actually a really good time to be on Cassien because it was getting very busy in the end. You know, there was a lot of people there. And September, October and into November, there'd be a lot of people there. Well, you turn up first week in December, they've all gone.
Yeah.
And of course the fish knew that as well, so they came out and were, you know, and it was just a really nice time to be there.
The fishing on there for you, especially during those times when you've got sort of 3 or 4 weeks, like you're saying, of the December period, are you pretty much in one swim? Are you always looking? How did sort of things play out with regard to that?
It varied really, didn't it? You know, depending on the trips. There were trips where we spent like 4 weeks just in one swim.
Yeah.
And there were other times where we moved a lot. You know, we might only be in a swim for a day. And you imagine all the gear, like what we got here, you know, bivvy, 2 beds and the whole lot for a winter session, clothes. You might only be there for a day and think, no, this don't feel right. You know, if you're on the fish and catching consistently, which sometimes it did happen, you'd stay. You know, but other times you're looking to find them. They weren't where they were the year before, and you know, sometimes it would take a couple of weeks to actually drop on them. Yeah. You know, not easy to find, but when you dropped on them, then okay, you spend a week there, and then they might go.
What were you looking in terms of finding them? Were you looking for shows, or did you have an echo, or where did you sort of? How did you locate?
No,
it's deep, and it's big, and it's vast.
Such a tricky thing to do on there because they don't show much,
No.
and if if they did show, it was often fish that were moving rather than staying.
Okay.
Most of the time it was just getting an area that, you know, has been left alone. Often the areas that get left alone are where the fish move to. And just try it, really. You know,
Really just fish it.
give it a couple of days. If you haven't had a bite in a couple of days, move.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the Cassien fishing is that, moving.
Captures. There's been obviously loads of them. Joan, you had an incredibly special one. The first lady to catch a 60-pounder.
Yeah.
Give us that story. It's
Well,
epic.
that was one time where we went up the South Arm, didn't we?
We did, yeah. That was a break from the North Arm sessions,
yeah.
wasn't it?
So, and it was just nice, and it was we had been one place first, then we moved to another, then we moved to this little place further.
We had all the
up.
rain, didn't we?
Yeah, because I mean the rain kept coming. Where he had the rods out there, all of a sudden they disappeared. So you had to move back, and then about 15 minutes later you'd have to move again.
Wow.
So we went further up where there was like a little ledge like that there, and we were all right. We settled there, and it was not a bad day. So I thought I'll wash my hair. So I washed my hair, you know. I mean, we used to wash in the water. And that was it, you know. Wash my hair, and that was it. I'm just sitting there, and I sat back on my chair, and it just went off. So I just got up. It was like, it wasn't knit one, pearl one, but it was sort of, I had to go like that, pull a little bit, and then it took a bit of line. Took me ages. Anyway, I got it in there, got it in the net. And that was, I thought, that was it. I didn't bother, because he normally weighs and does whatever, things like that. But anyway, as I say, I was just dripping me.
Yeah, it was
That was it.
Did you know it was a 60? Did you know it was a big carp?
I knew it was a nice fish. That's at the time, that's what I felt like. It's nice, you know, it's a nice one. And I thought, oh, good. And I thought, typical, because it had happened before. I'd caught some fish before.
But when he's gone away?
He's gone, yeah. And I
Yeah,
thought,
they know, somehow they know.
it's happened again. Anyway, he came back and he sort of came in and says, oh, I see you've had one. I says, yeah, I said, it's in the net. So, and of course, nosy, you know, here, there. I've got to see this, see what it
Yeah,
is.
too right.
And then he went and got the scales and he weighed it. He says, do you know what it is? I said, no. You know, and he said, oh, well, it's 61, you know, so...
Yeah, 60 pound forward.
Yeah.
60-pound fall.
Yeah.
And that's the first lady that was recorded to catch a
Yes.
60-pound carp.
Yeah, first one that we know of.
Was that significant to you, Joan? Or it seems like it was just very
I
light.
don't
Well, I
think
was
we sort of realised at the time.
No, you know, I was just enjoying, I just loved being at Cassien. It was nice being at Cassien and being, you know, we were fishing together. It was just everything. It wasn't it was lovely, but it wasn't the be all and the, it was all integrated, you know. It was lovely. It was
What
nice.
year was
Yeah.
that? What year was the...
It was 2002.
2002. Steve, for
Yeah,
you, your captures, you talked a little bit about that early 60 sort of success.
Yeah.
Through the sort of years, how did things capture-wise sort of pan out? Was it pretty consistent most trips? Did you catch the big uns, or how did it sort of go? Because you've been there a long time.
We went for a lot of years, really, where we was catching consistently, but I wouldn't say big fish, you know, average sort of size fish. 20 pounds,
Okay.
mid-20s to mid-30s, you know, with the odd 40 thrown in. But the reason really for that was we was fishing, we looked at it as a summer holiday, you know, it was summer trips. And when I look at the summer trips, it was almost like a completely different set of fish.
Yeah.
You know, the fish that you caught in the winter were different fish, and they were much bigger stamper fish, you know, one of the quirks of Cassien, if you like.
Yeah.
To break that sort of record of the original 61, it was literally the last week of night fishing we had on there, and it was one of my standout favourite moments on Cassien.
Yeah.
Because we'd been there 2 weeks as well in the West Arm, where we'd caught the year before,
Okay.
and again they weren't there. I think in 10 days I'd won 25 pounder or something, you know.
Right,
It just
so
wasn't.
tough.
Yeah, it wasn't happening. They weren't there. To cut a long story short, over the next week, I had my best weeks fishing ever on there. You know, I had a 64.5 mirror, the 63.5 common, and another 5 50s. I think
Wow.
it was, and 4 of them were over 55. So you know, it was
That's
like
incredible, mate. But it's
Unbelievable. Yeah,
it
it
is like
was.
Cassien paying you back, though, isn't it?
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was, you know, because that was literally, we packed up and came home after that, and then the news come through that the night fishing was stopped. And it was almost like Cassien saying, well, we know this is your lot sort of thing, so here you are.
You've paid your dues.
Yeah.
There's a load of absolute belts. Mate, that's an
unbelievable,
unbelievable
yeah.
week. As well as the sort of captures, the highs, there's obviously been incredibly sort of testing moments. I know one of them physically for you, Joan, is pretty like, you've been through some pretty arduous times on there, haven't you? Talk to us about that.
When I broke my leg, yeah. We had moved from there, was it the...
Yeah, we'd been on a few weeks, we'd moved from the top of the North Arm down to the first point again, you know, that first,
the first point there. And when we go to a new place, I always get out and he's putting the boat and getting things out there. And I like to survey the estate and see what's what, you know. There.
Right.
So I was having a little walk around the side there, and there was this, just a little bit about this high there, and I jumped off there where the rock is there, and I took my foot there, and I had this, it was like a, whoa, that's what it felt like. And I'm like lying on the rock like that, I think I'd sort of passed out, because I had my wellies on, and I thought, and then I sort of come around and thought, and I couldn't move my leg, and it was hurting then, so I was shouting, Steve, Steve, because he was round at the front
just
of the
round the
swim.
corner. Yeah, she was gone ages, and I'm starting to think, where is she? And I could just hear this faint voice, Steve. And I look round, she's like laying on the rocks.
You know, so anyway, so he helped me in the boat there, and then he helped me, I mean, hey, it was agony, you know, just there. So I thought, well, I know, he says, look, we'll go to the hospital. I said, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. He says, well, you have to get the doctor. I said, no, well, we'll go home. I said, no, we're not, we're stopping. Well, you know, I don't want to go home.
Well, you know it's broken at this point,
I
didn't
knew
you?
it was broken, yeah, I mean, it was agonising.
But you said no, not even a...
No.
that's crazy, Joan.
Yeah, she would go.
I know, but that's, I just loved Cassie, I just loved it. So I tore a t-shirt up with it, and I put it on my foot like that there, and put a Tesco bag.
Tesco bag. Tesco
You know,
finest.
And then it came to like January the 1st,
Right.
where you renew your permits,
Okay.
you know, for the year there. So he had to go do that, so he sort of left me there. So I'm hitched down, and I was sitting near the rods, the top there.
Yeah,
So-
bearing in mind that we'd actually been in the swim for a week without a bleep, you know, that it wasn't happening.
boy,
We couldn't go anywhere because, you know,
Me.
I wanted to move, but we couldn't because...
How inconvenient of you.
Yeah.
What a move.
I felt
But,
guilty.
But I said, you know, I've got to go and get the permits. You know, you'll be all right, obviously. We've not had a bleep. Just sit on the bucket and I'll be about an hour.
I mean, he'd just sort of gone through under the bridge to
Right.
go that way, and just then it just roared off. I thought,
See, they know when I'm not there.
God, you know. So I literally got down on my bum, down to the side there, and I'm playing the fish, and I thought, oh, the net's up there.
Oh, no.
So I thought, right, so I give a little bit of line, and I hitched back up. I got back up. I mean, my hands were sore. Got the net, come back down, sat there, could see it. Anyway, I got the fish in the net, so I had it there. So I'm just I thought, well, I'll sit here.
Yeah.
I can't just leave the net, stick it in the water. There wasn't any way to put it.
So you sat with a net?
I just sat with the net there, so I'm sitting there, and I had me Tesco bag here, and me sat there. Anyway, the pompiers go up and down in the speedboats,
Yeah.
and after gone past, you know, all the waves come.
Oh, the wake. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and it was just splosh, you know. I was like a mermaid with no tail. That's what
Tesco mermaid.
that's what I felt like. I thought, God, and the only thing that was dry was my foot.
Oh.
You know, because I had the bag on it.
As if you landed that. How big was a carp?
Well, it was 41.12. This was 2000, so it was before the 60. That was a PB then.
That's incredible. For you now, the fishing now and how things are with Cassien now, does it still hold that place where it draws you every year?
Oh.
Is is it in any way sort of lessened? I don't know. Talk to me about how it stands now in the grand scheme of you and your angling.
The yearning's still there.
Is it?
Yeah, the feelings are still there. I still feel like it's the best place we've ever been. It doesn't feel quite as much home as what it did. You know, like going to Cassien felt like we felt at home. It was our place, if you know what I mean. It wasn't our place, but you know, we knew every inch of the bank, we knew the people there, and as much as I love Cassien, it's harder work. It's a lot harder. You know, it's not like it was.
Bring back the night fishing, happy days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, honestly, like just hearing the stories, hairs on the back of my neck, the captures I've seen, I've talked to you loads of times, but every time I have a conversation with you about it, it is everything that you want in terms of, you'd want a place that is significant, that sort of, I don't know, that draws you in, and it's carp fishing in essence, isn't it? It's that beauty and that magic.
Yeah, but it was more than fishing, a lot more than fishing.
Definitely.
You know, it's just a very, very special place. You know,
Really lovely.
just a special place for both of us, isn't it?
And you never ever felt strange.
No.
Never. It was.
Well, you've done exactly the same to me. You've made me feel ultimately very, very welcome. And yeah, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to stop punishing you. Thank you for sharing it. And we're going to get a brew and hopefully...
Well, thank you very much, Hassan.
Oh,
and
don't
to
be
Jack
silly.
too.
Don't be
right?
silly, Joan. You do not need to thank us.
It's been a fantastic time.
Hopefully, there's still time for that man to catch a few more. Maybe even a sturgeon.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to get the thing sturgeon. Thank you, Jack.
He had to get that in.
I had to end it on a sturgeon.
He had that saved.
That's
didn't
the
he? He was
ending
just waiting
shot.
to get that in.
It was there.
Let me, Nicola.
It was there early doors.
Hassan's bait.
Nicola! Steve's waiting. Hopefully you're enjoying the video thus far. I'm certainly having a lovely time, and it is giveaway time. How would you like to win yourself a set of 3 Nash Siren R4 alarms? Now, in order to do that, you need to like this video, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and in the comments, you need to answer this question. What year did Joan become the first female angler in the world to catch a 60-pound plus carp from Cassien? Finally, you need to make sure that you like our Facebook page, because that is where we'll notify you of who is the lucky winner of those alarms. Mate, you're an absolute living legend. It's been so refreshing just to sort of sit here, relax, and spend some quality time with both you and Joan. You've got a couple there in the sling that you've had in a flurry of early morning activity that we should probably take a look at, mate.
Yeah, a couple of nice ones there. So yeah, let's get them out and have a
Let's
look,
get
eh?
them out, mate. Wow, what a way to round off a fantastic trip. Not my carp, a result of Steve's first light flurry, mate. A 40-pounder, and what's my little one here, mate?
26 that one, 41.12 this one.
Mate, you've absolutely smashed it. I've had a fantastic time, a fish that I caught that I'll never forget, and an experience with you and Joan I'll never forget.
Oh, it's been great, mate. We've really enjoyed spending time on the bank with you. It's been fun, hasn't it?
Honestly, it's a real privilege. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, Briggsy, Joan, you've made a young angler's dream come true.
Thanks, mate.